Maya Chen pulled her hood lower as she walked through the crowded marketplace on Station Kepler 7. The artificial gravity felt lighter than Earth's, making each step feel like she might float away. She preferred it that way. Lighter steps meant quieter movement, and quiet movement meant fewer people noticed her. The market buzzed with activity from dozens of alien species. Tall, blue-skinned Vortaxi haggled over exotic fruits that glowed in the dim light. Short, furry Kessians chittered excitedly as they examined technological gadgets. The air smelled of spices, ozone, and the metallic tang that came from recycled atmosphere systems. Maya kept her hands buried deep in her jacket pockets. The synthetic skin grafts covering her arms felt tight today, probably from the station's dry air. She'd learned to ignore the constant ache, just like she'd learned to ignore the stares, when people caught glimpses of the scars that the grafts couldn't completely hide. 3 years ago, those scars had made her famous across the galaxy. Now they just made her want to disappear. She stopped at a small food stall run by an elderly Terran woman named Ruth. The woman's weathered face broke into a smile when she saw Maya approach. "The usual, hun?" Ruth asked, already reaching for ingredients. "Please," Maya replied, keeping her voice low. Ruth began preparing a simple protein bowl, her movements practiced and efficient. She was one of the few humans on this station, and Maya appreciated that she never asked questions about Maya's past. Most people here didn't know who Maya used to be, and she intended to keep it that way. "You hear about the trouble near the Outer Rim?" Ruth said casually as she worked. "Some kind of new threat. Got the Alliance all worked up." Maya's hands clenched involuntarily in her pockets. "What kind of trouble?" "Don't know much. Ships going missing, whole colonies going dark. The news feeds are calling it unprecedented." Ruth handed over the bowl with a concerned expression. "Makes an old woman worry, you know." Maya accepted the food and left payment on the counter. "I'm sure the Alliance will handle it." But as she walked away, Maya felt a familiar knot forming in her stomach. She'd heard whispers about missing ships for weeks now. Each time someone mentioned it, the scars on her arms seemed to burn hotter. She found her usual spot in the station's observation deck, a quiet corner where she could eat and watch the stars through the massive viewport. Ships of all sizes drifted past like mechanical fish in an ocean of black. Some were massive cargo haulers, others sleek personal vessels. A few bore the distinctive markings of Alliance military craft. Maya was halfway through her meal when the emergency broadcasts began. Every screen in the observation deck flickered to life simultaneously. The Alliance logo appeared, followed by the stern face of Admiral Harrison, the current head of military operations. Maya recognized him immediately, though he looked older and more tired than when she'd last seen him. "Citizens of the Alliance," Harrison began, his voice carrying the weight of bad news. "I come to you today with grave information. Over the past month, we have lost contact with 17 colonies in the Outer Rim sector. Additionally, 43 civilian and military vessels have vanished without trace in the same region." The observation deck fell silent. Even the usual chatter from the various alien species stopped as universal translators conveyed the message. "Initial reconnaissance missions have revealed evidence of an unknown hostile force," Harrison continued. "This enemy appears to possess technology and capabilities that exceed our current understanding. All civilian traffic to the Outer Rim is hereby suspended indefinitely." Maya's bowl slipped from her numb fingers, clattering to the floor. Around her, people began talking in worried voices, but their words sounded distant and muffled. Her vision tunneled as memories she'd tried to bury came flooding back. The last time the Alliance had faced an unknown hostile force, Maya had been their answer. She'd been their weapon. She'd also been their biggest failure. Harrison's broadcast continued with technical details about evacuation procedures and increased security measures. But Maya stopped listening. She was remembering the weight of power, armor, the heat of plasma weapons, the screams of her squad mates as they died around her. She was remembering the moment when everything went wrong, when her enhanced reflexes and military training hadn't been enough to save the people who mattered most. When the broadcast ended, Maya found herself alone in the observation deck. Everyone else had hurried away to contact family or prepare for potential evacuation. She remained frozen in her corner, staring at the spilled food at her feet. A soft chime indicated an incoming personal message on her wrist communicator. Maya glanced down and felt her blood turn to ice. The sender was listed as A. Harrison, Alliance Command. She hadn't spoken to Admiral Harrison in 3 years. Hadn't spoken to anyone from her old life. The Alliance had been very clear that Maya Chen, the battle champion, was dead. Only Maya Chen, the anonymous station dweller, remained. With trembling fingers, she activated the message. Harrison's face appeared on the small screen, looking directly at her with tired eyes that held a mixture of hope and desperation. "Maya," he said simply. "I know we agreed you were done. I know what we put you through, and I know what it cost. But 17 colonies are gone, and we don't have anyone else who's faced something like this before. The enemy's tactics, their technology, it's familiar in ways that terrify me." Harrison paused, and Maya could see him struggling with what to say next. "I'm not ordering you to come back, I can't. You earned your retirement the hard way, but I'm asking you to consider it. Because if this is what I think it is, if they found us again..." He shook his head. "We need our best weapon back, Maya. We need our champion." The message ended, leaving Maya staring at a blank screen. Around her, the station continued its normal operations, but she felt disconnected from it all. The careful, quiet life she'd built was crumbling just from watching a news broadcast and receiving a single message. She looked down at her hands where the synthetic skin couldn't quite hide the network of scars beneath. Each mark told a story of sacrifice, of pushing human enhancement technology beyond its limits, of becoming something more and less than human in service to others. Maya had spent 3 years trying to forget who she used to be. But as she sat alone in the observation deck, watching Alliance ships gather in formation outside the viewport, she realized that some things couldn't be forgotten. Some things wouldn't let you rest. Maya spent the night walking the station's maintenance corridors. She knew every passage, every hidden route through the lower levels where few people ventured. These tunnels had become her sanctuary over the past 3 years, places where she could move without being seen, without having to interact with others. The hum of life support systems provided a steady background noise that helped calm her racing thoughts. But tonight, even the familiar rhythm couldn't quiet the storm in her mind. Harrison's message had awakened something she'd thought was buried forever. She paused at an intersection where 4 corridors met. The walls here were covered with the station's original construction markings, faded symbols that told the story of how this place had been built. Maya had studied them during countless sleepless nights, finding comfort in their permanence, but tonight, they reminded her of scars. Everything reminded her of scars. A soft footstep behind her made Maya freeze. Her enhanced hearing picked up the subtle sound of someone trying to move quietly but failing. Without turning around, she spoke into the darkness. "I told you I wanted to be left alone, Ruth." The elderly woman stepped into the dim light, carrying a thermos and wearing a concerned expression. "You didn't come back for dinner. I got worried. I'm not hungry." Maya still hadn't turned around. She didn't want Ruth to see her face right now. "It's not about the food, and you know it." Ruth moved closer, her footsteps careful on the metal grating. "I saw the broadcast today. Saw how you reacted." Maya's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you mean." "Child, I've been running that food stall for 20 years. I've seen every kind of person the galaxy has to offer, and I've learned to read people pretty well." Ruth's voice was gentle but firm. "You're not just some drifter looking for a quiet life. You're someone running from something big." Finally, Maya turned around. In the corridor's emergency lighting, the synthetic skin on her face looked pale and artificial. Ruth's eyes widened slightly as she took in the full extent of the scarring, but her expression remained kind. "The Alliance doesn't send personal messages to food stall customers," Ruth continued. "And people don't react to military broadcasts like they're watching their own funeral." Maya wanted to deny it, to maintain the fiction she'd worked so hard to create. But 3 years of loneliness suddenly felt overwhelming. Ruth was the closest thing to a friend she had on this station, and the weight of carrying her secrets alone was becoming unbearable. "You don't understand what you're asking," Maya said quietly. "Then help me understand." Ruth held out the thermos.
Hot chocolate.
"Real earth cocoa, not the synthetic stuff. Cost me a week's profits to get it, but I figured you might need it tonight." Despite everything, Maya found herself taking the thermos. The warmth felt good against her artificial skin. She unscrewed the cap and inhaled the rich scent, remembering childhood moments she thought she'd forgotten. "The Alliance has a program," Maya said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Enhancement Project Achilles. They take volunteers and change them, make them stronger, faster, more resilient, turn them into weapons." Ruth listened without interruption as Maya continued. "I was 17 when I volunteered, young, stupid, and angry about the Centauri attacks. I wanted to protect people, wanted to make a difference. The Alliance promised I could save lives." Maya took a sip of the hot chocolate, letting the warmth spread through her chest before continuing. "The process took 2 years. Bone reinforcement, muscle enhancement, neural pathway acceleration, cybernetic integration. They rebuilt me from the inside out. By the time they were finished, I could punch through steel plating and react faster than most computer systems." "And the scars?" Ruth asked gently. "Some from the procedures, some from the battles." Maya rolled up her sleeves, revealing the full extent of the damage. Networks of white lines crisscrossed her arms like a map of pain. Enhancement technology pushes the human body beyond its limits. Sometimes it breaks. Ruth reached out and gently touched one of the scars. "But you saved people." "I tried to." Maya's voice cracked slightly. "For 5 years, I was the Alliance's answer to impossible situations. They called me the battle champion, sent me wherever the fighting was worst, wherever normal soldiers couldn't survive." She pulled her sleeves back down, hiding the evidence of her past. "Then came the Void War. An enemy from outside our galaxy, something we'd never seen before. They had technology that could turn our own weapons against us. Ships that existed partially outside normal space. The Alliance threw everything they had at them, and it wasn't enough." Maya closed her eyes, remembering. "So they sent me and my team to their command ship. A suicide mission, but someone had to try. We made it inside, fought our way to the core, and I failed. My team died, and I barely escaped. The enemy retreated, but they took everything they needed to understand our technology, our weaknesses." "That's not failure," Ruth said firmly. "That's survival against impossible odds." "You don't understand." Maya opened her eyes, and Ruth could see tears threatening to fall. "They didn't retreat because we hurt them. They retreated because they had what they came for. Information about human enhancement, about our military capabilities. I was supposed to stop them, and instead I became their greatest intelligence asset." The corridor fell silent except for the hum of the station's systems. Ruth processing what she'd heard while Maya struggled with memories she'd tried to bury. "The Alliance retired me with full honors," Maya continued bitterly. "Gave me a new identity, a pension, and a promise that I'd never have to fight again. All I had to do was disappear and never speak about what happened. And now they want you back." Maya nodded, her grip tightening on the thermos. "Admiral Harrison thinks the enemy from the Void War has returned. If he's right, then everything that happened before was just reconnaissance. They're back to finish what they started." Ruth was quiet for a long moment, studying Maya's face in the dim light. Finally, she spoke. "You know you're going to say yes, am I?" Maya's voice was barely audible. "Because despite everything that happened, despite all the pain and the scars and the guilt, you're still the person who volunteered at 17 to protect others. That doesn't just go away." Maya wanted to argue, to insist that she was done with that life, that she'd paid enough. But Ruth's words hit too close to home. Even after 3 years of hiding, even after building a new life as far from conflict as possible, Maya still monitored the news feeds for threats to civilian populations. Still felt her enhanced reflexes tense whenever she heard about Alliance casualties. "They destroyed me once," Maya whispered. "What makes you think this time will be different?" "Maybe it won't be," Ruth admitted. "But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is that when people need protecting, someone has to stand up, even if it costs everything." Maya stared down the corridor, seeing not the station's maintenance tunnels but the infinite darkness of space where her enemies waited. Somewhere out there, colonies were going silent and ships were disappearing. Somewhere out there, people were dying while she hid behind a false identity and synthetic skin. "I don't know if I'm strong enough anymore," she said. Ruth smiled sadly. "Strength isn't about not being broken, child. It's about getting back up after you've been shattered into pieces." In the distance, the station's communication system chimed with another Alliance broadcast. Maya didn't need to hear it to know what it would say. More missing ships, more lost colonies, more evidence that humanity's greatest nightmare was returning. She finished the hot chocolate and handed the empty thermos back to Ruth. "Thank you," she said simply. "For the chocolate? For reminding me who I used to be." As Ruth walked back toward the main levels of the station, Maya remained in the corridor, staring at her reflection in the polished metal walls. The scars were still there, the artificial skin still imperfect. But for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't trying to hide from what she saw. She was trying to remember how to be a weapon again. Maya stood before the mirror in her small apartment, studying the reflection she'd avoided for 3 years. Her enhancement scars formed patterns across her skin like circuit boards made of flesh. Some were from the original procedures, others from combat damage that even enhanced healing couldn't completely repair. She pressed her palm against the mirror, watching how the synthetic skin on her hand looked different under the harsh bathroom lighting. Artificial flesh over reinforced bone, nerves rerouted through cybernetic interfaces, muscles rebuilt with molecular precision. She was still human, but barely. The apartment's communication system beeped softly, indicating an incoming priority message. Maya knew who it would be before she answered. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the wall screen, looking more haggard than he had in yesterday's broadcast. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept since the crisis began. "Maya, I need an answer," he said without preamble. "I've got 3 more colonies that went dark overnight. Whatever's out there, it's accelerating its operations." Maya touched the scars on her neck where neural interfaces had been implanted. The connections were still there, dormant but functional. 3 years ago, she'd been linked to some of the most advanced combat systems ever created. Now those same interfaces ached like phantom limbs. "Tell me about the enemy signatures," she said finally. Harrison's relief was visible. "You're considering it. I'm gathering information. Don't read more into it than that." Harrison nodded and activated a holographic display that filled Maya's small living space. 3-dimensional representations of battle damage appeared around her, showing the remains of destroyed ships and abandoned colonies. "Every attack site shows the same characteristics," Harrison explained. "No conventional weapon damage. Instead, we find evidence of molecular disintegration, space-time distortion, and something our scientists are calling reality fractures." Maya moved around the hologram, studying the destruction patterns. Her enhanced memory automatically cataloged details and compared them to her experiences from the Void War. The similarities were unmistakable. "The Shadowkin," she whispered. "That's what you called them before. Our xenobiologists still can't classify them properly. They seem to exist partially outside normal space-time, which makes them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons." Maya reached out to touch one of the holographic displays, her fingers passing through the image of a devastated colony. She remembered the first time she'd encountered the Shadowkin, how their ships had seemed to phase in and out of reality like ghosts made of dark metal. "How many people are dead?" she asked. "Conservative estimate? 200,000 civilians. But Maya, that's not the worst part." Harrison's expression grew even more grim. "We intercepted one of their transmissions. They're not just attacking randomly. They're looking for something specific." "What?" "Enhancement technology. Specifically, data about Project Achilles." Maya felt cold despite the apartment's heating system. "They want the enhancement protocols." "We think so. Every military facility they've hit has been stripped of biometrics data, medical records, and technological specifications. They're collecting information about enhanced humans." "About me." Harrison nodded reluctantly. "Your mission 5 years ago gave them a data sample. Now they want the complete picture. If they get their hands on enhancement technology and combine it with their existing capabilities," he didn't need to finish. Maya could imagine the result: an enemy that possessed both alien technology and enhanced human abilities. The Shadowkin were already nearly impossible to fight. Enhanced versions would be unstoppable. "There's something else," Harrison continued. "Intelligence suggests they're building toward a major operation. Something they're calling the Final Harvest." Maya turned away from the hologram, looking out her apartment's small window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, people were dying while an enemy she'd helped create prepared for something even worse. "What makes you think I can stop them this time?" she asked. "Because you've evolved too." Harrison manipulated the holographic display, showing technical readouts of Maya's current biological status. "Your enhancement systems have been dormant for 3 years, but they've been adapting, improving. The neural pathways have optimized themselves. The physical augmentations have settled into more efficient configurations. Maya studied the medical data with growing amazement. Her body had been quietly upgrading itself during her retirement, refining the enhancement technology without her knowledge. "You're stronger now than you were during the Void War," Harrison said, "and this time you won't be going in alone." The hologram shifted to show personnel files. Maya recognized some of the faces, other enhanced humans from different Alliance programs. Soldiers who had undergone their own transformations, who carried their own scars. Project Achilles was just one enhancement program among many, Harrison explained. "We've been developing others, learning from what worked and what didn't. These operatives have been training for this specific threat." Maya focused on one file in particular. Marcus Rivera, enhanced for electronic warfare and cybernetic integration. His modification scars were different from hers, clustered around his temples and spine where neural implants interfaced with his nervous system. "He looks young," she observed. 22, volunteered after his home colony was attacked by pirates. "He's been following your career since he was a teenager." The weight of that responsibility settled on Maya's shoulders. Somewhere in the galaxy, young people were volunteering for enhancement procedures because of her example. They were allowing themselves to be transformed into weapons because she had shown them it was possible to survive the process. "How many are there?" she asked. 12 active enhanced operatives. Different specializations, different capabilities. Together they form the most advanced combat unit humanity has ever produced. Harrison paused. "But they need leadership. They need someone who's faced the Shadowkin before and survived." Maya looked at her reflection in the window, seeing both her scarred face and the holographic battle data overlaid on the glass. 3 years ago, she'd been a broken weapon, too damaged to continue fighting. Now she was being asked to become something more. A leader, a teacher, a symbol of hope for people she'd never met. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I do it my way. No interference from Alliance Command, no political considerations, no restrictions on tactics," agreed. "And if we succeed, if we stop the Shadowkin, I want guarantees that enhancement technology will be better regulated. No more teenagers volunteering for procedures they don't understand." Harrison nodded. "The Alliance Council has already approved new oversight protocols. This crisis has shown us the dangers of uncontrolled enhancement development." Maya turned back to face the hologram, studying the faces of the enhanced operatives who would become her responsibility. Each one had made the same choice she had years ago, to sacrifice their humanity in service of protecting others. Each one carried scars, both visible and hidden. "Where do I find them?" she asked. "They're already en route to Starbase Prometheus. The Alliance has converted it into a staging area for enhanced operations. Your transport leaves in 6 hours." Maya nodded and began dismissing the holographic displays with gestures. As the images faded, her apartment returned to its former simplicity. But everything felt different now. The quiet life she'd built was ending, replaced by something far more dangerous and uncertain. "Maya," Harrison said, as she prepared to close the communication link. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," she replied. "Thank me when this is over and people are safe." After Harrison's image disappeared, Maya stood alone in her apartment, surrounded by the possessions of her civilian life. Books, plants, simple furniture that had made this place feel like home. Soon she would leave it all behind and return to a world of military protocols and impossible missions. She walked to her bedroom and opened a concealed compartment in the wall. Inside was a single item she'd kept from her military career, a set of enhancement interface connectors, the technological links that would allow her to sync with advanced combat systems. Maya held the connectors in her scarred hands, feeling their familiar weight. Tomorrow she would be a weapon again. Tonight she was still Maya Chen, anonymous station dweller who preferred quiet, corners and avoided conversations. She had 6 hours to say goodbye to the woman she'd become and remember how to be the champion. The galaxy, Edid, the Shadowkin were coming, and humanity's greatest weapon was about to wake up. The transport ship's hull vibrated with the familiar rhythm of a military vessel at full burn. Maya sat in the passenger compartment, watching stars streak past the viewports as they traveled toward Starbase Prometheus. She'd changed from her civilian clothes into the basic Alliance uniform Harrison had provided, but the fabric felt strange against skin that had grown accustomed to softer materials. Her enhanced hearing picked up conversations from the crew, fragments of worried discussions about the Shadowkin attacks. These soldiers had never faced an enemy like this before. They didn't understand what was coming. Maya did. The ship's captain, a young woman named Torres, approached her seat with obvious nervousness. Maya recognized the expression. The mixture of awe and fear that people showed when they met a legend they'd assumed was dead. "Ma'am, we'll be arriving at Prometheus in 2 hours," Torres said formally. "Admiral Harrison asked me to brief you on the current tactical situation." Maya nodded, gesturing for Torres to take the seat across from her. The captain activated a portable holographic display that showed the outer rim region where the attacks had occurred. 17 colonies confirmed lost, Torres began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. Pattern analysis suggests the Shadowkin are working systematically through each system, extracting specific materials and information before moving on. What kind of materials? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew. Rare metals used in enhancement procedures, quantum processors from medical facilities, biological samples from enhancement subjects. Torres highlighted specific locations on the map. They're building a comprehensive database of human augmentation technology. Maya studied the pattern of attacks, her enhanced memory automatically calculating vectors and timing. The Shadowkin weren't just gathering information randomly. They were following a specific plan, one that suggested they understood human enhancement programs better than the Alliance realized. "Has there been any communication from the enemy?" Maya asked. Torres hesitated. "There was one transmission. The xenolinguistics team is still analyzing it. But the preliminary translation was disturbing. Show me." Torres activated another display, this one showing wavelength patterns and translated text. The message was brief but chilling. "The broken one will come. The harvest will be complete." Maya felt ice form in her veins. The Shadowkin knew she was alive. More than that, they were expecting her to return to active duty. Somehow they had been monitoring Alliance communications or had sources within human space. "Ma'am?" Torres asked, noticing Maya's reaction. "Do you understand what it means?" "It means this is a trap," Maya said quietly. "Everything that's happened, all the attacks, they're designed to bring me back into the fight. But why would they want that?" "You're their greatest enemy." Maya turned away from the display, looking out at the stars. "Because I'm also their greatest failure. 5 years ago I was supposed to stop them. Instead, I gave them everything they needed to understand human enhancement technology. Now they want to complete that intelligence gathering by studying me directly." The weight of that realization settled over both women. The Shadowkin hadn't retreated after the Void War because they were defeated. They'd retreated to prepare for a second invasion, one specifically designed to capture and study Maya Chen. "Orders are to proceed to Prometheus regardless," Torres said, though her voice carried doubt. "I know." Maya stood and walked to the viewport, pressing her palm against the transparent aluminum. "But we're going to change the game. If they want to study human enhancement, we'll give them more than they bargained for." 2 hours later, Maya stood on the observation deck of Starbase Prometheus, looking down at the most advanced military facility humanity had ever constructed. The station was massive, easily 10 times larger than the civilian station where she'd been living. Docking bays hosted experimental warships, while laboratory modules hummed with research into weapons technology. But it was the personnel that caught Maya's attention. Enhanced. Humans moved through the station with the fluid grace that came from perfectly optimized muscle and bone structure. Some showed obvious signs of their modifications: metallic implants, synthetic limbs, eyes that glowed with technological enhancement. Others, like Maya, hid their augmentations beneath artificial skin and careful clothing choices. "Impressive, isn't it?" a voice said behind her. Maya turned to see Marcus Rivera approaching. In person, he looked even younger than his file photo, but his movements carried the controlled precision of someone whose reflexes had been artificially accelerated. The enhancement scars on his temples were subtle, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. "You're Rivera," Maya said. "Marcus, and you're the legend." He extended his hand, and Maya noticed the slight tremor that indicated active neural interfaces. "I've studied every mission report from your career. It's an honor to finally meet you." Maya shook his hand, noting the enhanced strength in his grip. "How many others are here?" "All 12 of us arrived yesterday. We've been training together for 6 months, but everyone wanted to meet you before the mission briefing. Marcus gestured toward the station's interior. Would you like to see the facilities? Admiral Harrison spared no expense. As they walked through Prometheus, Maya was amazed by the resources the Alliance had devoted to enhanced operations. Medical bays equipped with the latest augmentation technology, training facilities that could simulate any battlefield condition, workshops where technicians modified equipment for superhuman operators. But it was the people that truly impressed her. Each enhanced operative she met carried themselves with quiet confidence born from surviving the transformation process. They came from different backgrounds and possessed different specializations, but they shared the same fundamental choice. They had given up their original humanity to protect others. Sarah Kim specialized in environmental adaptation, her body modified to survive in any atmosphere or temperature. David Okafor had been enhanced for heavy combat, his skeletal structure reinforced to handle weapons that would break normal humans. Lisa Park carried neural modifications that allowed her to interface directly with computer systems and electronic warfare equipment. Each introduction reminded Maya of her own transformation years ago, the mixture of excitement and terror that came with becoming something more than human. But these operatives had advantages she'd never possessed. They'd learned from her experiences, benefited from improved technology, and most importantly, they had each other. You're all volunteers, Maya observed as they gathered in the station's main briefing room. Every one of us, confirmed Elena Vasquez, whose modifications focused on enhanced healing and biological resilience. We knew what we were signing up for. And you knew it might not be enough. The room fell silent. These were soldiers who had accepted the possibility of death as part of their duty, but Maya's words carried a deeper meaning. The possibility that even enhanced humans might not be sufficient to stop the Shadowkin. Tell me about your capabilities, Maya said, taking a position at the front of the room. Real capabilities, not training manual statistics. For the next hour, Maya listened as each operative described their modifications, their strengths, and their limitations. She began to see how their abilities could complement each other, how a team of enhanced humans might accomplish things that even she couldn't achieve alone. But she also saw the fear in their eyes. These were brave people who had volunteered for the ultimate sacrifice, but they were about to face an enemy that existed partially outside normal reality, an enemy that could turn human technology against itself and phase through conventional defenses. The Shadowkin aren't just technologically superior, Maya explained when the briefings were complete. They think differently than we do. They exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, which means they can attack from directions we can't perceive. How do we fight something like that? Asked Chen Wei, whose modifications focused on tactical analysis and battlefield coordination. Maya touched the interface connectors she now wore openly on her uniform. By becoming something they can't understand. During the Void War, I was a single enhanced human following conventional tactics. This time we're going to be something unprecedented, a linked network of enhanced minds working as one. The implications of that statement rippled through the room. Network consciousness was theoretical technology, barely tested and incredibly dangerous. Linking enhanced minds together could amplify their capabilities exponentially, but it could also destroy their individual identities. The risk is acceptable, Maya said, reading their concerns, because the alternative is the extinction of human civilization. Admiral Harrison chose that moment to enter the briefing room, his expression grim with new intelligence. I'm afraid the situation has deteriorated further. We've detected Shadowkin ships massing near the Centauri system. They're preparing for something big. Maya felt her enhanced reflexes sharpen as combat protocols activated in her mind. How long do we have? 48 hours, maybe less. If they take Centauri, they'll have a staging area for attacks on the core worlds. Maya looked around the room at the enhanced operatives who would become her team, her weapons, her responsibility. Each of them was a volunteer who had given up. Then, the enhanced strike ship Prometheus cut through space like a blade made of starlight and determination. Maya stood in the command center, neural interfaces humming as she processed data streams from 12 enhanced minds simultaneously. The network consciousness experiment was working better than anyone had dared hope. Through Marcus Rivera's electronic warfare capabilities, She could see the Shadowkin fleet assembling near Centauri like a swarm of predatory insects. Through Sarah Kim's enhanced sensory modifications, she could detect energy signatures that normal instruments couldn't perceive. Through David Okafor's tactical analysis systems, she could calculate attack, patterns, and defensive positions with superhuman precision. But it was through her own memories that she understood what they were truly facing and act. In 30 minutes, announced Captain Torres, who had insisted on commanding the ship despite the danger. Shadowkin vessels are maintaining formation around the fourth planet. They appear to be harvesting something from the surface. Maya closed her eyes, letting the network feed her information directly through neural interfaces. The planet below was a major research facility where the Alliance had developed new enhancement technologies. If the Shadowkin gained access to that data, they would be able to create their own enhanced warriors. They're not just harvesting technology, she said, opening her eyes to look at her team. They're preparing to create hybrid soldiers. Shadowkin capabilities combined with human enhancement. Elena Vasquez, whose biological modifications allowed her to sense life signs across vast distances, suddenly stiffened. Maya, I'm detecting human life signs on the planet's surface. Weak signals, but definitely alive. Survivors from the research facility, Maya realized. The Shadowkin are keeping them alive for experimentation. The ethical implications hit everyone simultaneously through the neural network. This wasn't just a mission to stop an invasion. It was a rescue operation that would determine the fate of Alliance scientists and their families. New mission parameters, Maya announced. Primary objective remains stopping the Shadowkin fleet. Secondary objective is extracting survivors from the surface. That's going to complicate our approach, warned Chen Wei, whose tactical specialization was already calculating the challenges. We'll need to split our forces. Maya nodded, her enhanced mind working through the possibilities. The original plan had called for a concentrated assault on the Shadowkin command ship, using their network consciousness to overwhelm the enemy's dimensional advantages. Now they would need to coordinate multiple operations simultaneously. Lisa, can you penetrate their communication systems? Maya asked. Lisa Park's cybernetic enhancements activated, creating a visible glow around her neural implants. Their encryption is unlike anything I've encountered, but I'm detecting patterns. Give me 5 minutes. While Lisa worked, Maya used the network to coordinate with her team. Through their shared consciousness, she could feel their readiness, their determination, and their fear. Each enhanced operative was prepared to sacrifice everything to complete the mission. I'm in, Lisa announced suddenly. Their communications are strange. They're not just exchanging tactical information. They're sharing something else. Emotional content, maybe? Or memory data. They're a hive mind, Maya realized. Not individual consciousness like humans, but a collective intelligence. That's why they think differently than we do. The implications were staggering. If the Shadowkin operated as a unified consciousness, then defeating them wouldn't be a matter of destroying ships or killing soldiers. They would need to disrupt the collective mind itself. Contact in 10 minutes, Torres announced. Shadowkin vessels are changing formation. I think they know we're here. Through the ship's sensors, Maya watched as alien vessels began moving with perfect coordination. No communication delays, no hesitation, no individual decision-making. The Shadowkin fleet operated like a single organism with multiple bodies. They're adapting to our approach, Marcus observed through the network. Their dimensional phasing is increasing frequency. Maya could see it too. Shadowkin ships flickering in and out of normal space-time, making them nearly impossible to target with conventional weapons. But her team wasn't using conventional weapons. Initiate enhanced targeting protocols, she commanded. Use the network to predict their phase patterns. 12 enhanced minds working in perfect synchronization began calculating the quantum mathematics of dimensional shifting. Where individual consciousness would have been overwhelmed by the complexity, their linked awareness could process variables that no single human brain could handle. Firing solutions acquired, David announced. His heavy combat modifications interfacing with the ship's weapon systems. But Maya, we're only going to get one shot at this. If we miss, they'll adapt their patterns. Then we don't miss. The first exchange of fire lit up space between the two fleets. Alliance plasma bolts struck empty void as Shadowkin ships phased out of normal space. But Maya's team had predicted the maneuver, and their follow-up shots caught the enemy vessels as they rematerialized. 3 Shadowkin ships exploded in bursts of exotic energy that hurt to look at directly. But the remaining vessels adapted instantly, their phase patterns becoming more erratic and unpredictable. "They're learning from our attack," Lisa warned through the network. "Their collective intelligence is processing our tactics in real time." Maya felt the first stirrings of the old despair, the memory of her previous failure against these enemies. But this time was different. This time she wasn't alone. "Elena, can you detect their biological components?" Maya asked. "Scanning. Yes, there are organic elements within their ships, but the readings are strange. It's like they're partially alive and partially machine. Biomechanical integration," Maya realized. "They've merged their consciousness with their technology. That's how they achieve dimensional phasing." Through the network, Maya shared her growing understanding of the enemy. The Shadowkin weren't just using advanced technology. They had become their technology. Their ships were extensions of their collective consciousness, which meant destroying the vessels might not be enough. "We need to target their consciousness directly," she announced. "Lisa, can you use their communication network to introduce a virus into their collective mind?" "Theoretically, yes. But I'd need to link directly with their system, and the feedback could destroy my neural interfaces." Maya felt the weight of command pressing down on her enhanced shoulders. Asking Lisa to risk her life was part of the mission, but it felt like sending another teammate to their death. "There's another way," she said suddenly. "I can do it." "Maya, no," Marcus protested through the network. "Your neural systems are already stressed from maintaining our link. Adding Shadowkin integration could cause permanent damage, or it could give us the weapon we need to win this war." Before anyone could stop her, Maya activated her personal neural interfaces and began reaching out toward the Shadowkin communication network. The alien consciousness was vast and cold, a collective mind that spanned multiple dimensions and countless individual entities. Pain lanced through Maya's enhanced nervous system as she made contact. The Shadowkin consciousness was nothing like human thought patterns. It was efficiency without emotion, calculation without compassion, a perfect merger of organic intelligence and technological capability. But it was also familiar. Through her connection, Maya realized the terrible truth. The Shadowkin hadn't just studied human enhancement technology during the Void War. They had incorporated it into their own consciousness. Parts of her original neural patterns captured during her escape from their command ship had been integrated into their collective mind. The Shadowkin weren't just humanity's enemies. They were humanity's dark reflection, enhanced consciousness taken to its logical extreme. "Maya, get out of there," Elena shouted through the network. "Your life signs are becoming unstable." But Maya pressed deeper into the alien consciousness, following the threads of familiar neural patterns back to their source. If the Shadowkin had incorporated human enhancement technology, then they had also inherited human vulnerabilities. She found what she was looking for in the deepest layers of their collective mind. The original data from her enhancement procedures, the baseline human consciousness that served as a template for their biotechnological integration, and she began to change it. Using her own enhanced neural systems as a weapon, Maya introduced chaos into the Shadowkin's perfect collective consciousness. Human emotions, individual thought patterns, the messy complexity of enhanced but still fundamentally human awareness. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the Shadowkin fleet, ships began losing coordination as their collective intelligence struggled to process incompatible thought patterns. Vessels collided with each other, weapons fired randomly, and the perfect unity of their hive mind began to fragment. But the effort was destroying Maya from the inside. Her enhanced nervous system, already pushed beyond safe limits by maintaining the team network, began shutting down under the strain of fighting an alien consciousness. Through failing connections, she felt her team reaching out to her, trying to pull her back from the brink of neural collapse. 12 enhanced minds working together to save the person who had saved them all. Maya's consciousness floated in a gray space between life and death, her neural interfaces sparking with feedback from the Shadowkin collective mind. Around her, the enhanced team's voices echoed through failing connections, 12 minds desperately trying to anchor her to humanity. "She's losing cohesion." Elena's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Her neural patterns are becoming fragmented." "Pull her back," Marcus commanded through the network. Everyone focus on Maya's core consciousness. Don't let her drift into the Shadowkin collective. But Maya could feel herself being pulled deeper into the alien hive mind. The Shadowkin consciousness was vast and seductive in its perfect efficiency. No individual suffering, no personal doubts, no fear of failure. Just collective purpose and unified action. For a moment, she understood why they had sought to harvest human enhancement technology. They weren't trying to destroy humanity. They were trying to improve it. To eliminate the chaos and inefficiency of individual consciousness and create something perfectly ordered. It would have been easy to let go, to become part of their collective and end her 3 years of hiding from her failures. No more scars, no more guilt, no more responsibility for the lives of others. But then she felt David Okafor's determination flowing through the network, his unwavering commitment to protecting civilians. She felt Sarah Kim's adaptability, her refusal to surrender even in impossible circumstances. She felt each member of her team reaching out with their enhanced capabilities, offering their strength to bring her home. Maya focused on those connections, using them as anchors to pull herself back from the Shadowkin collective. The alien consciousness fought to keep her, recognizing that losing her meant losing their perfect order. But human stubbornness, enhanced and amplified through 12 linked minds, proved stronger than collective efficiency. I'm back, Maya gasped through the network. Neural stability returning to normal parameters, Lisa announced with obvious relief. But Maya, the Shadowkin fleet is regrouping. Our attack disrupted them, but they're adapting. Through the ship's sensors, Maya could see the alien vessels reforming their battle lines. The chaos she had introduced into their collective consciousness was being systematically purged, their perfect coordination slowly returning. But the damage had been done. Several ships hung dead in space, their crews unable to reconcile human thought patterns with their collective identity. How many survivors on the planet's surface? Maya asked, pushing herself back to full awareness. 43 confirmed life signs, Elena reported. They're in a research bunker about 2 kilometers from the main facility. Time to extraction? 8 minutes if we move now, Chenwei calculated. But the Shadowkin will have regained full tactical coherence by then. Maya looked around the command center at her team, seeing the trust in their enhanced eyes. These weren't the broken weapons she had expected to find. They were something new, enhanced humans who had learned from her mistakes and grown beyond them. New plan, she announced. We split into 3 groups. Marcus, Lisa, and David will take a shuttle to extract the survivors. Elena, Sarah, and Chen will engage the Shadowkin fleet directly, using our network advantage while they're still disrupted. The rest of us board their command ship. That's suicide, Torres protested from the captain's chair. You barely survived linking with their consciousness. Direct boarding action will expose you to even stronger interference. Not if we do it right. Maya activated her personal interface systems, feeling the familiar pain as enhanced neural pathways came online. The Shadowkin Collective is based on perfect unity, but we just proved that human consciousness can disrupt that unity. We're going to use ourselves as weapons. The plan was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted. 3 enhanced humans would board the Shadowkin command vessel and introduce human chaos directly into the heart of their collective consciousness. If successful, it would permanently fragment their hive mind. If it failed, Maya and her team would be absorbed into the alien collective. I'm going with you, Captain Torres announced suddenly. You're not enhanced, Maya pointed out. The neural feedback will kill you. Maybe. But someone needs to pilot the boarding shuttle. And I'm not sending enhanced operatives in alone while I stay safe on the ship. Maya looked at the young captain, seeing an echo of her own determination from years ago. Torres was willing to sacrifice herself for others, just as Maya had once volunteered for enhancement procedures without fully understanding the cost. Acceptable, Maya said finally. But you follow my orders exactly. No heroics. The next 10 minutes unfolded with the precise coordination that only enhanced consciousness could achieve. Marcus's team launched toward the planet's surface, their shuttle weaving between Shadowkin vessels with impossible grace. Elena's group engaged the enemy fleet directly, their linked tactical awareness allowing them to anticipate alien maneuvers before they happened. And Maya's boarding party approached the Shadowkin command ship like a bullet aimed at the heart of their collective consciousness. The alien vessel was massive, its hull seeming to phase in and out of normal spacetime as they approached. Torres piloted their shuttle with steady hands despite the reality distortions that made normal navigation impossible. "Hull breach in 30 seconds, Torres announced. "Maya, are you sure about this?" "No," Maya admitted through the network. "But I'm sure about my team." The boarding action was unlike anything in military history. Maya and her two companions moved through the Shadowkin ship's corridors like ghosts themselves, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to anticipate attacks from creatures that existed partially outside normal space. The ship's interior was a fusion of organic and mechanical components, walls that pulsed with alien life and corridors that seemed to extend into dimensions the human eye couldn't process. But Maya's enhanced vision could perceive the quantum structures that maintained the vessel's dimensional phasing. "Target those nodes," she commanded, indicating junction points where organic and mechanical systems merged. "If we can disrupt their dimensional anchoring, the ship will be forced back into normal space." Her companions moved with lethal efficiency, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to destroy alien technology that conventional soldiers couldn't even see. Each node they eliminated caused the ship to shudder as its dimensional phasing became less stable. But their actions were drawing attention. Shadowkin entities began converging on their position, creatures that looked like living darkness wearing technological exoskeletons. Their weapons fired energy that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to dodge. "Maya," one of her companions called through the network, "we're not going to reach the command center at this rate." Maya made a decision that she knew her team wouldn't approve of. Activating her neural interfaces to maximum capacity, she reached out once again toward the Shadowkin collective consciousness. But this time, instead of trying to disrupt them, she offered herself as a sacrifice. "Take me," she broadcast directly into their hive mind. "I'm what you wanted from the beginning. Take my consciousness and let the others complete their mission." The effect was immediate. Shadowkin entities throughout the ship stopped their attacks and began moving toward Maya's position. The collective consciousness was focused entirely on capturing the enhanced human who had caused them so much trouble. But Maya's sacrifice bought her team the time they needed. Her companions reached the ship's command center and began their final assault on the Shadowkin collective consciousness, introducing human chaos directly into the alien hive mind's core processes. Through her failing neural interfaces, Maya felt the collective mind beginning to fragment permanently. Individual Shadowkin entities across the fleet were becoming confused, their perfect unity shattered by incompatible thought patterns. "Maya." Torres's voice came through her communication system. "The extraction shuttle is ready. We need to move now." But Maya knew she couldn't leave. Her consciousness was too deeply integrated with the Shadowkin collective. Attempting to withdraw would either fail or allow the aliens to rebuild their unity. "Tell Admiral Harrison," she whispered through her comm system. "Tell him the enhancement program worked. We became something the enemy couldn't understand." Through the network, she felt her team's anguish as they realized what she intended. 12 enhanced minds reached out to her, offering their strength to help her escape. "Together," Maya said, echoing her words from the previous battle. "We do this together." But this time, together meant something different. Instead of her team helping her survive, Maya was ensuring they could live in a galaxy free from the Shadowkin threat. The alien collective consciousness collapsed inward as human enhancement technology proved incompatible with perfect unity. Across the fleet, Shadowkin ships began shutting down as their crews struggled to function without collective guidance. And in the command center of their flagship, Maya Chen closed her eyes and let her consciousness merge permanently with the alien hive mind, introducing enough chaos to ensure they could never threaten humanity again. Her last thought before disappearing into the collective was a simple one. The scars had finally served their purpose. 6 months after the Battle of Centauri, Marcus Rivera stood in the memorial garden aboard Starbase Prometheus, looking at the newest addition to the Wall of Heroes. Maya Chen's name was carved in quantum-etched crystal, alongside the names of every enhanced human who had given their life in service to the Alliance. But Maya's name glowed differently than the others. Instead of static light, it pulsed with a rhythm that matched human neural activity, because according to Alliance scientist Maya Chen wasn't entirely dead. "She's still in there," Dr. Sarah Kim said quietly, joining Marcus at the memorial. Sarah had survived the Centauri mission and now served as the medical officer for enhanced operations. The quantum scans show fragments of her consciousness integrated throughout the captured Shadowkin technology. Marcus touched the interface connections on his temples, the enhancement scars that marked him as one of Maya's students. Is she suffering? We don't think so. Her neural patterns suggest a state similar to deep meditation. She's aware but at peace. Sarah paused, studying the pulsing light of Maya's memorial. The Shadowkin collective consciousness wasn't destroyed when she merged with it. It was transformed, changed into something that's neither fully human nor fully alien. The implications of that transformation were still being studied by Alliance xenobiologists and philosophers. The captured Shadowkin vessels contained technology beyond human understanding, but their crews had been fundamentally altered by Maya's sacrifice. They were no longer a collective hive mind seeking to harvest human enhancement technology. Instead, they had become something unprecedented, individual entities capable of both collective cooperation and personal choice. Any word from the diplomatic team? Marcus asked. Sarah nodded. First contact protocols were successful. The transformed Shadowkin are willing to negotiate. They're calling themselves the Synthesis now, and they've offered to share their dimensional technology in exchange for information about human enhancement procedures. Maya would have liked that, Marcus said with a sad smile, turning enemies into allies through sheer stubborn determination. They stood in comfortable silence, watching as other enhanced operatives came to pay their respects at the memorial. The program had expanded significantly since Centauri, with new volunteers arriving every week. But now the enhancement procedures were voluntary in the truest sense, with full disclosure of risks and comprehensive psychological support. Marcus, Sarah said eventually, there's something else. Admiral Harrison wants to see you in his office. Marcus found Harrison studying tactical displays that showed the current state of human space. The Outer Rim colonies had been rebuilt, and trade routes were flowing normally again. But there were new challenges emerging as humanity expanded further into the galaxy. Marcus, good to see you, Harrison said, deactivating the displays. I have a proposition for you. Sir? The Alliance Council has approved the formation of a new organization, Enhanced Operations Command, with full autonomy to respond to threats that conventional forces can't handle. We want you to lead it. Marcus felt a familiar weight settling on his shoulders, the same responsibility that Maya had carried. Sir, I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of leadership. None of us are ever ready, Harrison replied. But Maya chose you as her second in command for a reason. She saw something in you that qualified you for this responsibility. Harrison activated a new display, showing personnel files for enhanced operatives across human space. There were dozens now, each with different specializations and capabilities. All volunteers, all fully informed about the risks, all committed to protecting others. The galaxy is changing, Marcus. We're discovering new species, new technologies, new threats that we can't even imagine yet. Enhanced humans like yourself are going to be humanity's answer to those challenges. Marcus studied the files, recognizing many of the faces. These were people who had volunteered for enhancement after learning about Maya's sacrifice. They came from every walk of life, united only by their willingness to give up their original humanity to protect others. What would Maya want me to do? Marcus asked quietly. She'd want you to trust your team, learn from her mistakes, and remember that being enhanced doesn't make you less human. It makes you more responsible for protecting humanity. Marcus thought about Maya's final message, transmitted through the network just before her consciousness merged with the Shadowkin collective. She had spoken about the enhancement program's true purpose, not to create weapons but to create guardians. People willing to sacrifice their own comfort and safety to ensure that others could live in peace. I accept, Marcus said finally, but I want full authority over recruitment and training. No more teenagers volunteering for procedures they don't understand. Agreed. The Council has already approved new oversight protocols. Enhancement will remain voluntary, but volunteers must complete extensive psychological evaluation and training before any procedures begin. Harrison handed Marcus a datapad containing his new orders and the organizational structure for Enhanced Operations Command. As Marcus scanned the information, he realized that Maya's sacrifice had accomplished more than just stopping the Shadowkin threat. It had fundamentally changed how humanity approached enhancement technology. There's one more thing, Harrison said, The synthesis have offered to help us develop new enhancement procedures using their dimensional technology. Volunteers would gain the ability to exist partially outside normal spacetime, similar to what the Shadowkin possessed. And the risks? Unknown. The procedures would be experimental, and there's no guarantee that human consciousness could survive the dimensional shifting process. Marcus looked at Maya's memorial through Harrison's office window, watching the pulsing light that indicated her consciousness still existed somewhere within the synthesis collective. She had taken the ultimate risk to protect others, and now she existed in a state between life and death, human and alien. "I'll need to discuss it with my team," Marcus said. "But Harrison, no one volunteers for dimensional enhancement unless they fully understand what happened to Maya. They need to know that some sacrifices can't be undone." "Understood. Take your time with the decision. The galaxy will wait." As Marcus left Harrison's office, he reflected on the changes that had occurred since Maya's return to active duty. The Alliance was stronger, more united, and better prepared to face unknown threats. Enhanced humans were no longer seen as weapons to be deployed, but as guardians to be respected and supported. But the cost had been enormous. Maya Chen, the battle champion who had tried to retire quietly to a civilian life, had given up not just her life but her individual existence to protect humanity. She had become something beyond human understanding, a consciousness that existed in the spaces between realities. Marcus made his way back to the memorial garden, where other enhanced operatives were gathering for the evening remembrance ceremony. It was a tradition that had developed spontaneously after Maya's sacrifice, a time when enhanced humans came together to remember why they had chosen to undergo transformation. As the ceremony began, Marcus felt the familiar sensation of neural interfaces activating as the enhanced operatives linked their consciousness together, not the deep integration that Maya had achieved with her original team, but a lighter connection that allowed them to share emotions and memories without losing their individual identities. Through the network, Marcus felt the determination of his fellow enhanced humans. Each of them carried scars, both visible and hidden from their transformation procedures. Each of them had given up aspects of their original humanity to become something more. And each of them understood that with enhanced capabilities came enhanced responsibility. "Maya taught us that being enhanced doesn't make us less human," Marcus said aloud, his words carrying through both normal communication and the neural network. "It makes us more human, more capable of compassion, more willing to sacrifice for others, more determined to protect those who can't protect themselves." The memorial light pulsed brighter, as if responding to his words. Through the network, Marcus felt a presence that might have been Maya's consciousness, or might have been his imagination. But it carried a message of approval, of pride in what her students had become. As the ceremony ended and the enhanced operatives dispersed to their duties, Marcus remained at the memorial. Tomorrow he would begin his new role as commander of enhanced operations. He would lead a new generation of enhanced humans into an uncertain future, facing threats that hadn't yet been imagined. But tonight, he simply stood vigil for the woman who had taught him that true strength came not from enhanced muscles or accelerated reflexes, but from the willingness to use those gifts in service of others. Maya Chen's scars had become humanity's shield, and her sacrifice had become their inspiration. The battle champion was gone, but her legacy lived on in every enhanced human who chose to stand between civilization and chaos. In the depths of space, former Shadowkin entities calling themselves the Synthesis worked alongside human scientists to develop new technologies. And somewhere in the quantum foam between realities, a consciousness that had once been Maya Chen watched over them all, ensuring that the peace she had died to create would endure. The galaxy was V.